And welcome into yet again another edition of Devil Dash. I am Wills, joined by Josh here. It's been kind of a wild 2 weeks. We've had a week off last week. I was on vacation last week, but it's not a whole lot of news, but a bunch of interesting news if you follow the program. Not really eye-jumping off the page national news, but we're going to be talking about what's going on with this basketball program. There's been 5 transfers, 2 declarations for the draft. We're going to be talking about the football program and kind of Bobby Hurley in particular. So to get it going, Josh, what do you think is going on with this basketball program? What would you grade their, not necessarily their offseason, but what would you grade your level of optimism going into next season is a good way to put it.
Yeah, I'd say it's fairly high. I mean, you got to have some faith in Bobby Hurley, knowing what he's doing. He's kind of been known to get some transfers in off season kind of every year. Not as many we've seen him do this year compared to last, but certain circumstances call for certain measures, and this off season was definitely one that took other major options into consideration, and that being a whole team renovation. I still think there's a decent chance we could get Christopher back. Christopher Bagley, I'm sorry.
So Bagley actually just entered the transfer portal. So if he does,
really?
Yeah, that happened about 2 days ago. If he does come back, he is not going to be coming back as an Arizona State Sun Devil. So it's a bunch of interesting news. Looks like our camera might be going out right now, but we will keep you updated. It's going to be interesting because ASU has if you compare it to where we were a year ago, where this program was on the precipice of being a Sweet 16 Elite 8 contender, and now compared to this year, the article I was looking at was from Arizona Republic. It's talking about how the ASU is going to boast 10 new faces this year in their roster, which is not something you want, especially coming off what was our recruiting class last year, like 12 in the country, and then all of a sudden you have this amount of people transferring and new phase. You have assistant coaches retiring for personal reasons. Not that he didn't have very valid reasons to retire and all that, but it's just a lot of timing and a lot of important people like Jalen House, who is supposed to be probably a starting point guard this year. Outside of Kamani Lawrence and Jalen Graham, this team's going to be very different from next year. So from last year to next year, so it's going to be really interesting to maybe even see a preseason game of how this team plays.
Yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully our first preseason game can be against GCU. We could just blow their doors off. That would be great.
Yeah, because Tayshawn Cherry's there now. So I just was looking at a list. Sorry, let me find it, of the new names that are going to be coming in. So here's a list of the transfers that ASU's gotten. Marion Jackson from Toledo, Jay Heath, the Boston College guy, DJ Horn, Illinois State, and AJ Brahma, the Robert Morris guy. That's the guy I'm really excited about. I think he can add a lot. He was averaging like 24 points per game at Robert Morris. He was the Mid-American Conference Player of the Year. That's what I'm reading right now. And then the big guy that I think most ASU fans are really excited about is Enoch. He's a 5-star recruit, Enoch Boakia. I'm sorry for any mispronunciation there, but he's 6'10", 240-pound center out of the George Harris Prep and Academy, which is I don't think it's the same place, but it's very familiar, same conference that Lou Winsdorf played against in Canada. And there's a quote in here that Hurley was talking about this guy. I hope Canada is good to me as it was when they gave me Lou Dort, was a direct quote from Hurley, which I love. Lou Dort, obviously a starter for the Thunder now. So it's going to be a lot of new faces. So this is the name of 3 returners last season, and sophomore Jalen Graham, Kamani Lawrence, and doesn't even say who the last one is. So probably someone off the bench that's going to be coming back next year. So two big players that are coming back. This team is really getting a full revamp, which is pretty disappointing. I think that's the way to put it.
Yeah, it's disappointing. Coming from what we've expected from this team, us in tenure here, especially, this was like the perfect moment. Bobby Hurley finally get the 5-star player, and then he got another one after that. And then we were, pretty optimistic about, what he could do with them. But, maybe, and like we talked about this in plenty of other shows, maybe Bobby just doesn't respond well to those guys or coach those big personalities well. I mean, he was never the underdog story, but maybe his coaching style really grasps some kids who are maybe going through that. And I mean, that's not what ASU was last year. If you look at our recruiting class and our preseason national polls, but I mean, the years before that was us. We weren't really a top 25 team, even though we knew we kind of deserved that. And we made it there, and we stayed there for a couple of weeks with a team that didn't have any 5-star guys. What was
Lou Dort was
Lou Dort, and then the year before that we had Cherry before Dort, correct? Yeah. I mean,
Cherry's our age.
We could laugh about that one later, but not on camera.
As he's laughing.
That guy's a joke. Anyways, I mean, I'm excited to see. Just literally think about Bobby Hurley going and getting a brand new group and bringing them together. We've seen him do this kind of thing before, and I'm honestly excited. But I mean, I'm honestly just looking forward to a full actual season of basketball, to say the least. I mean, no more one canceled game every 3 games. So I don't know. What do you think about this team?
The thing that's frustrating to me is, Bobby Hurley has not deserved any of this. Ever since he's walked in at ASU, he's been successful. He's been, his teams have gotten, his recruiting has gotten incrementally better every year. Then COVID came along, and COVID really derailed. And we saw for football how it really just, really literally, and it's not really even a term, a figure of speech here to say it derailed their season, where it really, COVID picked up their season, took it off the tracks, and said, nope, you are not going down this path anymore. It is, you are incapable of finish the season. Basketball, we've talked about it a lot, how, there's a lot of games where you can make up COVID and, COVID breaks. Baylor, for heck's sake, they had a COVID scare at the beginning of the year where they had to shut down. They won the national championship. So,
blessing in disguise right there.
I definitely think, they ended up postponing or canceling a Gonzaga matchup from early on. But, I just think it's so hard for basketball because the way COVID wrecked our season, it's wrecking our future too. Because basketball, there's so many one and dones, unlike football. Imagine if Jaden Daniels was a freshman last year. We had all this Heisman hype, if you will, about Jaden Daniels. We come in, that's the one season he gets at ASU, and then he's gone to the league. You would feel stolen, and you would feel, and let's say ASU sucks for last year. They win one game, kind of like Arizona winning 0 games. But if they come in, Jaden Daniels sucks, the odds are that next year's recruiting class is not going to be very good. So if that next recruiting class is not very good, then you could be in trouble. And that's exactly what we're seeing with ASU. Hopefully Bobby has brought in the right mix of transfers, but man, when you're bringing in 10 new people, obviously I guarantee you a word you're going to hear a lot from Bobby Hurley when they start practicing together is, wow, look at this depth we have. We have so much depth. This is more depth than I've ever had to work with in my entire career. You're going to hear a lot of those quotes because they don't have that star go-to player, which a lot of times you need. We saw Max Absmith, in March Madness. We saw a lot of these teams that were not very good but had a star player that knew how to fit that system. They could carry teams. And we went on and on about what this identity was last year. So I'm really nervous that with 10 new faces, that identity question is going to be going on past Christmas, maybe into early March.
So what are you going to say about the identity crisis when Remy Martin comes back for a 5th season?
Yeah, I hope he does. I hope he does because man, I think we need him. I think we need him.
Be insane.
I'm already tired of thinking about the word depth, and we haven't even started hearing it yet. But because I promise you, that's all we're going to hear about. Brought in 10 players, and we saw the Toledo guy. He looks pretty good. The Robert Morris guy. We saw Boston College, who was Boston College's leading scorer last year. So there's a lot of things to get excited about, and I don't want to I don't want to see yell fire just where there's smoke, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think one thing we have to remember too is that when you're coming in, and we'll move on to the next segment very soon. But no, yeah, just for moderation purposes. But one thing you got to remember too is when you see a big renovation in a team like this, no one's spot is set. You know what I mean? Think of it as like a G League scenario where these guys are coming in like, okay, we've got a good coach. We know he's going to do his job to motivate us. But now everything else is up to me to uplift my team as much as possible. And no one's spot is saved right now. These kids have to work and earn their spot in the lineup, and I think that's gonna build a lot of character. That's gonna cause a bunch of friction, and friction leads to fire. And hopefully we can get some momentum working in our favor. I mean, I have faith in Bobby that we'll do better than Washington.
That's not a very. When you say that, that makes our ceiling even lower than I thought it was. But this is a good transition. But we're going to be talking about just kind of Bobby Hurley in particular next segment. But we were just touching on Bobby both a little bit. It's crazy that the last coach you couldn't even. Bobby's been here now for since 2016, 5 years now. It seems incredible because I think he was here the year before we are, and we're both. I graduated now, and he's a senior, so it's pretty crazy. Bobby's been here for quite a long time. He still seems pretty new because it seems like he kind of came in with Remy Martin, and now Remy Martin's finally leaving. So it's crazy. But the thing about Bobby is he has done so much for this program to build it to where we have expectations to be not just a tournament team, but winning a game. Because do you remember that first time that we made the tournament? We saw the reaction of Bobby Hurley jumping into his pool and all of his players jumping into his pool after him. It was like, wow, this is a huge step for this program. This program is now on that next expectation. We're like, we need to be in the tournament or else it's a failure. Look at this season. We went a little bit below 500, failure. And that has a lot of Herb Sendek-like seasons where that was the coach before Hurley. And it's tough. One bad year, and even on this show where we feel like we're pretty realist with the program, we get down on them a lot when we're watching the games, but we even question, was Bobby Hurley on the hot seat? And that wasn't really – I feel like a lot of people that, would listen to our show wouldn't really find that too preposterous to think Bobby Hurley could potentially be on the hot seat. But look at it now. It's like, what would you grade if you look at his overall tenure, Bobby Hurley's 5 or 6 years now at ASU?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. I love Bobby. I mean, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible, but when you follow this program and you see how much he pours his heart and his game into this job, of coaching these kids, and he really did bring ASU, to a somewhat of a national level. I mean, I'm not too sure what this program was before Bobby Hurley came in here. But, I know when I was a freshman or sophomore, or maybe I was a junior, it went by really fast. Don't judge me. But we beat Kansas, twice. And, once they were number one ranked team in the nation. Bill Self, incredible coach. Everyone who follows college basketball knows who he is. Bobby bested him with a team that was severely undermatched compared to a team in the Big 12 that is just as dominant as they have been for ages. And that's the light that we see in him, that that's who we're gonna compare him to, his best self. Yes. When he's coaching this team best and performing feats that no one would think would happen, like, winning 16 games in a row, and just taking the nation by storm. But, that time has come and gone. We've had a better teams, a lot different circumstances that this team has gone through. But at the end of the day, I think, okay, let's circle back here. How would I grade his tenure after all that? I'd probably give him a solid B B plus.
I am gonna give him an A minus. Don't bury the lead like you just did. That was bad journalism, right
Sorry.
there. That's a joke. It's a joke. We're on a talk
Not
show.
writing a story.
Yeah, we're on a talk show. You can talk about whatever you want, but I would say,
just imagine like you're reading that, and someone goes, "All right, now let me just circle all the way back." You're just going, "Oh,
what were we even talking about again?" The thing with Bobby Hurley is I would say A minus, because I think the realistic expectations. If you're realistic with your expectations, when he first came in, what were you asking? Hey, we want to be, a consistent top 25 team that makes the tournament every year. Obviously, last year, COVID was abnormal for not just sports, but everyone in their families individually. So I really, really think both teams need a pass. I think Herm has rebounded way better, but, because he's had way better circumstances with football, and you have to stay 3 years there. When Hurley first got hired, I just really think that no one was expecting ASU to do what, Mark Few did with Gonzaga. Like, take this, not that ASU was a nobody program, but you take this bad program and turn them into a top 5 contender every year. In and out every year, you're going to be one of the blue bloods with Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, North Carolina, all of them. No one ever thought ASU was going to do that, but they wanted to be a top 25 team. And I think, we should have been. I think the loss of Romello White was killer for this team. Injuries, COVID, you name it, this team had it when it came to bad news Bears, and it really hurt him for next year. So, and I'm not making excuses for next year, but I think he's done well with additions going into next year, at least the best he possibly can. I still think they need a point guard, but man, if you just think about the expectations from where Hurley has come from, I think he has absolutely smashed the glass door with all those expectations. That being said, he's taken a huge step down, and he's done enough on his resume to earn that respect, where I think that's where I'm going to give him an A minus, where, he is losing this program very quickly. One more bad year, and it might not be questions of whether he's on the hot seat. He might either be on the hot seat where his butt's starting to burn a little bit, or he's gone if they have another below 500 year, because ASU is they're spending a lot of money on their athletics, and they got that new sponsor with Desert Financial now. So there's a lot of things that play in where they're a nonprofit university where they have to spend all their money on like private schools, like USC. So ASU has to spend back. They spend a lot in athletics, and I think there's going to be pretty high expectations. I don't think even if they do have a bad year, he will get fired, but I think it's going to be a lot of speculation if they do. So I'm going to give him an A minus, but I think he's on that 90.9 A minus range where he's close to one bad grade and he's dropping back down into that B range.
Yeah, and I mean, Hurley was here before Herm Edwards, and we were saying we're a basketball school. We were.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were the first couple of years we went here. I mean, we love you, Todd Graham. We know you're just bulling over there in Hawaii.
He does not speak for both of us. We do not love you, Todd Graham.
I do. You're a good old average coach, okay? That's what we love you for.
Go coach a Hawaii. Perfect for you.
And we were backing Bobby, before, we got the Herm train and all the noise that came with that. But when a school does that after the high that Bobby was at, bringing in Herm, that just sets, not a precedent for Bobby, but it just sets a precedent of, there's a standard now at this school for athletics. And, we're really making a commitment to that. And, like we've talked about, COVID really jacked everything up for everybody. But, Bobby had that class. He had what looked like, the step, he was on the golden steps in, his trajectory at ASU. And I just really hope that this next season he can actually pull something together and, remind people that last year was a fluke for, not only ASU, but, not only a bunch of other programs in the country, but ASU as well.
Yeah. I'm nervous, man, for next year I'm nervous because it feels like you just hiked this big mountain, and I'm not saying we were at the top of this big mountain by any means, but we got let's say you're hiking Camelback Mountain, which, if you're from Arizona, you know what Camelback is. You get 4/5 of the way up the top. You're close to achieving all your goals. You've smashed all of them. You've burned your calories. All your Apple Watch rings are fulfilled. You're almost to the top for the fantastic views. and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, let's turn around and go back. But instead of turning around and walking the trail back, you just dive off the side of the mountain to get to your car and say, I'm going to get there rolling. I think right now we're on the verge of kind of standing up, looking over the edge, where we're debating whether we want to fall off the side of the mountain or take the trail back or back up.
Yeah.
I think we're at a very dangerous tipping point where another bad season could be catastrophic for recruiting classes, not just for the year after, but for 2 to 3 years, where they look at ASU as not a serious basketball school anymore. And it's almost like starting your program over from scratch, which it really feels like Bobby Hurley's had to do this offseason.
Well, and this year is going to be, that's going to be the telltale factor because, people are going to give you a pass for COVID season, kind of messing everything up. But, if you don't, like we're talking about, if you don't come back and, establish yourself as a top 3, top 4, without a doubt, top 4 team in the Pac-12, then, people are going to think that you kind of fell off because we were at we were higher up than we are last year or just going into the season. And, it's hard to get back to that level.
Yeah, I mean, the level, that's the thing, though, is like, if COVID hadn't happened, when COVID very first started, if it hadn't happened, ASU would have been in their 3rd consecutive March Madness appearance. And that's something that I can't even tell you the last time. I think Bobby set a record for back-to-back appearances, which is the first time in like since the 1980s or something. So, I mean, 3 in a row would be probably the first time ever if I had to guess for ASU. So, man, he's got a lot of work cut out for him, but I'll say a lot of his better teams has been when ASU is projected not to be very good, kind of like my D-backs over here. They know about that, but when they're not supposed to be very good, ASU's kind of turned the corner on people, basketball wise. So that being said, what can they do to, I think this is more of a question for football, but this is kind of an athletic question for basketball and football, which is like, Bobby Hurley, for example. The reason why I kind of considered him on the hot seat is because how much higher can he take this team? Is he hitting his ceiling? Are they a top 15 team? And I think the answer to that is no. I mean, we've seen him. I called him out for coaching out of timeouts. I called him for doing X, Y, and Z. And, you only criticize people because you want them to get better. Obviously, he's not listening to what I'm saying in particular. But, when we're just talking about it, some things we want to see improve. I don't know how much better Bobby Hurley. Obviously, you can always get more talent year in and year out from basketball, but you still have to have the right coach to coach those guys. So, what do you think ASU can do? I think football has a little more of a clear path, but let's start with basketball. What do you think basketball can do to kind of break through that? Like I said earlier, break through that glass ceiling that they're at now.
I think last year it was difficult. We didn't have Remy for some of the games, and we had a just identity crisis offensively. But I think going into next year, we need to make sure we have established roles, of who's going to do what on the court and who's going to flex those roles and who's going to stick their ground and for certain plays and certain aspects of the game, because that can play a big part when everyone's running wild down the court with 5 seconds left 5 or 3 minutes. Because the game gets pretty wild in the final waning seconds, and that's when a lot of games can be won or lost. Whether it's a 10-point deficit or a 3-point deficit. And I think Bobby's doing great. I think he's got to just figure it out this year. I'm not gonna. I really can't sit up here and tell Bobby how he could get better, because I truly don't know. This guy. I mean, given everything he's dealt with this year, he just kind of has to. You can't really go in this year with a plan. You just kind of gotta, coach this as a new team best you can. I think that is when you'll have, the best results, is when you go in there and he's got a brand new team, a bunch of brand new minds. Maybe 1 or 2 that come on, he's going to stick around. That's going to be he's going to have. a guy that they can, look to in practice. He's definitely going to be a leader, the first couple of weeks.
I hope he starts. Even if he does, even if the guy behind him is a little better for the first 5 to 7 games of the season, we need a familiar face on the court.
And Bobby's a coach that knows that's how it works when you have these new guys in here like that. They need someone to look up to for a model of consistency and somewhat of a legacy in his program, not lasting. Legacy.
Not only am I saying he should start because he's put in his time here, but
he earned it the tail end of the
he played. He was one of our better players.
I agree.
I think for me, I was kind of thinking about this, before the show. I think if you want concrete answers of he needs to coach better here, that doesn't always result in direct wins and losses. I think something to take. It's a small step, but to take a step, that next step nationally. I think the answer is pretty clear to me, is that team down south has been a, recruiting powerhouse, has dominated you in recruiting, almost since I can remember, even before I was born. So all the way since Lute Olson started there and built that program. So, with Tommy Lloyd there, I think that's his name, Tommy Lloyd, the new coach from the Gonzaga assistant, he's restarting an entire program, a program that could face another postseason ban, one that faced a postseason ban this year, and could see more sanctions coming down. There's going to be probably not this year and probably not next year where he's going to have two kind of who wants to come here and build something that, you might not get rewarded for. Who wants to come do that? And he's going to have a very serious program. But I expect, maybe it even is next year, not this upcoming year, but when I say next year, I mean, 2 seasons from now.
Right.
They could be a very good squad. I think Bobby really needs to take control of this season and kind of establish that not necessarily we're a tournament team or we're this or that. We are significantly better than that team down south. And you need to control the state of Arizona, where if people, when people are going to Arizona for basketball, they're going to Arizona State. They're not going to the U of A. It's like when you go to Southern California for football, you go to USC. You don't go to UCLA if you're going to Southern California. So it's stuff like that where ASU, I think they need to take advantage of not necessarily a bad U of A team, but we saw some big U of A players transfer out as well. So I think ASU, that's my answer, needs to take advantage of U of A with a new coach and, probably go, if I had to put a number on it, 4 to 5 wins more than U of A next year. I think that's something they need to do to take a step nationally.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the first steps you have to take is, you have
rivals.
You have to secure your future in basketball. That's done throughout recruiting and, performing. And, if you don't handle what's in your home state, it's harder because you might be getting some good recruits from other places, but a lot of the better guys have already been smothered up by the hometown recruiters or the people that have connections to that guy who's telling them, hey, I know this guy over at U of Arizona, Sean Miller, blah blah blah. He already knows about Sean Miller before and swoops him up in California or tries to, and that goes a long way. I mean, recruiting is a huge part of the game, especially in college. I mean, it's everything, especially for the Pac-12 where we're not getting, there's not 5 stars littered throughout the conference.
I'm intrigued how Lloyd does at U of A because I don't have the numbers. If anyone's out there listening that knows this, there's that huge thing with Nick Saban, when Nick Saban's always so successful that his assistant coaches get their jobs. They get their, head coaching jobs all over. Kirby Smart, there's guys in the NFL now, but there's tons everywhere. And, same thing with Bill Belichick, where these coaches come back to play them and, their record is terrible. Or, if you're a Bill Belichick disciple, you usually fail in the NFL. And why is that? Blah, blah, blah. I'm curious to see how Mark Few disciples have done because he's been there for, 15 years now. He's been there for a while. So he definitely has some assistant coaches that are out there. Before we wrap up, do you have any last thoughts on this basketball and football season?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of exciting things on the horizon for football. I mean, we possibly have the last year of Jaden Daniels.
This will be the last year of Jaden Daniels.
We'll see.
look at even when last season ended, Mac Jones, even after the national championship, he was projected to go, 15, 16, 17, 18 range. He's probably going to go number 3 overall, the 49ers. That run on quarterback, when you start getting closer to draft day, the NFL teams start running for those quarterbacks because they want them. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I've got nothing.
Yeah, all I got to say is thank gosh we get football season first. I could not deal with another season of basketball first, but that is all the time we have to this week. Make sure to check us out next week. Check us out online at www.sports.tv. Follow us on Twitter. Our socials are up there. We tweet about our favorite sports teams, ASU and professional sports as well. And thank you all for listening tonight. And we just want to say thank you for everyone that does tune in and continues to tune in. We're coming up on 30 episodes now, I believe. So we're going to keep the train going, and we will see you all next week. Have a good one.